My name is Teresa. The simmering sauce and freshly grated cheese have always been the melody of my life. For as long as I can remember, Teresa's Corner has been my world. Every table, every chair, every worn tile tells a little piece of my story, of the struggle to build this place with my own two hands. I remember when it was just a small, rented space, poorly lit, but with a human warmth that warmed the soul of whoever entered. Today, with the walls painted of vibrant yellow and plants hanging in the windows, it feels like the sun lives in here, even on the cloudiest days. My customers, they are my extended family. I know their names, their tastes, their stories. Donna Maria, who always orders the special lasagna on Thursdays and tells me the latest news about her grandchildren. Ziu Joao, the taxi driver who never skips the strong coffee before starting his rounds in the city. The group from the corner office, always in a hurry, but who never forget a smile and a good morning, Teresa. It's for them that I wake up before the sun rises, to ensure everything is fresh and delicious. It's the sweat of my labor that seasons each dish, the dedication of a lifetime that blends with the aroma of homemade food. And in the midst of this whirlwind of pots, orders, and lively conversations, my Mia has always been there. My little girl. I remember her as a child, running between the tables, helping to gather napkins, with her curious little eyes observing everything. She loved kneading the pastel dough with her tiny hands and felt like the most important person in the world when she delivered a plate to a customer. The corner was our home, the stage for her first discoveries, the smell of food, her childhood perfume. The years passed like the wind blowing through. Mia grew up, her interests changed. Dolls gave way to books. Playtime in the restaurant's dining area was replaced by hours of studying in her room. I always encouraged her, dreaming of a bright future for her, a future different from mine, with more opportunities. When she told me she wanted to study law, my heart filled with a pride that barely fit in my chest. Law. Such an important, respected profession. I, a simple restaurant owner, would have a daughter who was a doctor. I worked harder, stayed up nights preparing lunch boxes to ensure every tuition payment, every book, every extra cost of university. I didn't care about the exhaustion. The joy of seeing Mia following this path gave me strength. She was intelligent, dedicated, and I saw in her eyes the promise of a bright future. But lately, I had noticed a shadow hovering over the sparkle in Mia's eyes. She spoke less and less about the restaurant. Her university friends never came to visit us, and when I asked about them, she would brush it off with a wave of her hand and a, "Oh, Mom, they're different." At first, I didn't pay much attention. I thought it was just a young person's thing, this phase of wanting to distance themselves a little from their parents. The penny dropped one Saturday afternoon while I was cleaning the tables after lunch. Mia was in her room, studying for some important exam. Donna Lourdes, an old and very dear customer, asked me excitedly about her graduation. "Teresa, Mia's almost graduating, isn't she? What joy! You must be so proud." I smiled, of course, my chest full. "Yes, Donna Lourdes, God willing, she'll graduate at the end of the year." Then came the sentence that hit me like a bucket of cold water. Mia appeared at the bedroom door, with a strange expression on her face. "Mom, you don't need to come to my graduation, okay?" Her tone was light, almost casual, but I felt a knot forming in my throat. I looked at her, trying to understand. "What do you mean, daughter? You don't want me to go. But it's your graduation, the most important day of your life." She looked away, started fidgeting with her fingers nervously. "It's just that, my classmates, they don't know you, and the restaurant, it's that." The words got stuck, but the message was as clear as a glass of water. Shame. My Mia, my daughter, was ashamed of me, of my profession, of my life. At that moment, the murmur of the restaurant seemed to fall silent. The food lost its aroma. I felt a tightness in my chest, a pain that echoed in every corner of my being. The hands that had worked so hard to feed her, that had strived so much to give her a better future, now felt heavy, useless. The joy of the graduation, which I had so idealized, was transformed into an open wound. My daughter, the apple of my eye, didn't want me there on that very special day. And the reason was me. My humble life. My Teresa's Corner. Mia's words kept buzzing in my ears like an annoying mosquito, disturbing the peace of my heart. You don't need to come, my classmates, the restaurant. Each syllable was a rusty nail being hammered into my soul. I looked at my hands, calloused and with small scars from old burns, marks of a life dedicated to work. These were the hands that had cradled her as a baby, that had taught her to hold a pencil, that had prepared her favorite dishes. And now, these same hands were a source of shame for her. That night, the restaurant seemed quieter than usual. The contagious joy of the customers couldn't reach the emptiness that had settled within me. I prepared the food on autopilot, my body functioning out of habit, while my mind replayed the afternoon scene. Mia's face, the hesitation in her words, the averted gaze, it all repeated like a painful movie. When I got home, I found Mia locked in her room. I tried to talk, knocked softly on the door, but she only responded with a muffled murmur that she was tired and needed to study. I sat on the edge of the bed in my simple room, and tears rolled silently down my face. They weren't tears of anger, but of a deep sadness, the kind that hurts deep inside, as if a part of us had been torn away. I remembered so many sacrifices. The sleepless nights to pay the bills, having skipped buying a new dress to invest in Mia's books, having denied myself a raise to ensure she had everything she needed at university. All done with so much love, with so much hope of seeing her happy and fulfilled. And now, her fulfillment seemed to involve excluding me from one of the most important moments of her life. In the days that followed, the atmosphere at home became heavy, charged with an uncomfortable silence. I tried to act normally, making breakfast, asking about her classes, but I felt an invisible barrier between us. Mia had become more distant, more evasive. She avoided my eyes, answered in monosyllables, and spent most of her time locked in her room or out with her university friends. At the restaurant, I tried to hide my sadness with a smile for the customers, but inside, the wound continued to throb. Donna Lourdes asked me again about the graduation, and this time, I had to look away so she wouldn't notice the tears that threatened to fall. I made up some excuse, something about being busy at work, but I felt the weight of the lie on my conscience. One night, while washing dishes, I remembered an old conversation with my mother. She was also a simple, hardworking woman who was proud of her roots. She always told me, "Daughter, never be ashamed of who you are or where you come from. Humility is the greatest wealth we can carry in our hearts." My mother's words echoed in my mind, bringing a glimmer of strength amidst the pain. But the truth is, it hurt. It hurt deeply to feel the rejection of my own daughter, the person I loved most in the world. It hurt to realize that, for her, my life, my work, my very essence were not worthy of being shown to her new friends, her new world. In the midst of this turmoil of feelings, a bit of wounded pride began to emerge. I had no reason to be ashamed of who I was. I had built my livelihood with honesty and hard work. I had raised my daughter alone, with love and dedication, often sacrificing my own dreams for hers. If she couldn't see the value in that, perhaps the problem wasn't with me. This small spark of pride began to ignite a flame within me. A flame of questioning, of reflection. Should I simply accept Mia's decision? Should I hide on the day of her graduation, as if I were something to be ashamed of? Or was there another way to deal with this situation? That night, I lay in bed with my heart still aching, but with a new determination beginning to sprout. I needed to think. I needed to find a way to overcome this pain and, who knows, maybe even make Mia see things from a different perspective. The graduation was still far off, but I knew I needed to make a decision. A decision that honored my story and, at the same time, respected the path my daughter was taking, even if that path at that moment hurt me so much. The days dragged on, each one marked by Mia's silent absence and the constant presence of that painful revelation. At the restaurant, my actions were automatic, but my thoughts wandered incessantly. I relived moments with Mia, from her first hesitant steps to her eloquent arguments about university cases. Where did we go wrong? At what point did a child's admiration turn into a young woman's shame? Talking to Mia seemed impossible. She closed herself off in her own world, a world where I no longer seemed to have a place. I tried a few times to bring up the subject of graduation, but she invariably changed the topic or claimed to be too busy studying. I felt that any attempt to get closer was met with irritation, as if I were invading a space that no longer belonged to me. I sought comfort in my closest friends, Donna Nide from the flower shop and my neighbor, Donna Antonia. I shared my pain, my confusion with them. They both listened to me with patience and affection, offering words of support and trying to show me other angles of the situation. Teresa, dear, sometimes young people get carried away by appearances, by the pressure of others, said Donna Nide, while arranging a bouquet of colorful roses. But blood always runs thicker. Be patient, who knows? With time she might realize the value of the mother she has. Donna Antonia, always more pragmatic, sighed as we had coffee on her porch. Look, Teresa, I'm not going to lie, it hurts. It hurts a lot to raise a child with so much sacrifice and then see this ingratitude. But maybe she's just confused, trying to find her place in the world. The university world is different from ours, full of people with other realities. Their words brought some relief, a small glimmer of hope. Maybe Mia was just going through a phase, trying to fit into a new social circle. Maybe the shame wasn't directed at me, but rather at a part of her life that she felt didn't fit into this new context. But this rational understanding did not dispel the pain in my heart. I missed my girl, the complicity we had always shared. I missed her tight hugs, our lively conversations about the books she read, her enthusiastic accounts of her classes. The distance between us grew with each passing day, fueled by silence and avoidance. On a particularly melancholic afternoon, while cleaning the picture of young Mia, smiling with a birthday cake smeared with chocolate frosting, an idea began to germinate in my mind. A bold idea, perhaps even a bit impulsive, but one that lit a small flame of determination within me. If Mia was ashamed of my restaurant, of my life, perhaps it was time for her to see my world through different eyes. Perhaps it was time for me to show her and her friends the strength, dedication, and love that had built that place. Not as a way to confront her, but to reclaim my story, to reaffirm my worth. I began to observe the restaurant more closely. The vibrant colors of the walls, the welcoming aroma of the food, the sincere smiles of my customers. There was my life, the fruit of my labor, the place that had allowed me to raise Mia and give her every opportunity. There was nothing there to be ashamed of. There was history, there was struggle, there was love. I decided that I wouldn't just sit in a corner lamenting. I needed to act. Not to force Mia to change her mind about the graduation, but to find my own peace, my own way of dealing with this situation. I started thinking about ways to show Teresa's Corner beyond its regular patrons. Maybe a small piece in a local newspaper? Maybe a post on social media? Something that would show the soul of that place, the story behind the simple and tasty food. The idea was still vague, but the seed of action had been planted. I would not be invisible. I would not hide. I was Teresa, the owner of the corner, Mia's mother, and I was proud of my story. It would be up to Mia one day to recognize that pride too. The idea of showing Teresa's Corner to a wider audience began to take shape in my mind. It wasn't about confronting Mia, nor about forcing her to change her opinion about the graduation. It was about me, about reaffirming the value of my work, my history, my world. If my daughter couldn't see the beauty and dignity behind the pots and the counter, perhaps other people could. And perhaps, who knows, Mia might also see with different eyes one day. I started small. I asked Junior, one of my oldest customers who knew a bit about the internet, for help. He offered to take some photos of the restaurant, the dishes, and even made a short video of me telling the story of the corner. At first, I was a little shy in front of the camera, but the passion for my work and the desire to show the soul of the place gave me courage. The photos turned out beautiful, capturing the warm light that came through the windows, the colorful dishes, the welcoming smiles of my employees. In the video, I spoke from the heart about the years of struggle, the joy of feeding people, the pride of having raised Mia with the fruits of my labor. Junior created a simple page on social media and started posting the material. To my surprise, the response was immediate and warm. People started liking, sharing, and commenting. Many praised the food, the cozy atmosphere, the story of overcoming obstacles. Some even said they passed by the restaurant every day but had never gone in, and that now they were curious to visit. Donna Maria shared one of the photos with the caption, "The best lasagna in town and a warmth you won't find anywhere else." Diu Zhao commented on the video, "I've known Teresa for years, a warrior. This food feeds the body and the soul." The comments moved me, showed me that my work was recognized, that my story had value for other people. While this was happening in the virtual world, in the real world, the distance between Mia and me seemed to grow. She didn't comment on the posts, avoided talking about the restaurant, and spent more and more time away from home. I felt a mixture of sadness and frustration. On one hand, I saw the recognition of my work blossoming. On the other hand, I felt my daughter's absence in this blossoming. One day, I received an unexpected message on Instagram. It was from a journalist from a small local newspaper who had seen the posts about The Corner and wanted to do a story about my life. I was surprised and a little insecure at first, but then I thought, why not? It was another opportunity to show my world my truth. The journalist, named Anna, was young and friendly. She spent an entire afternoon at the restaurant, talking to me, observing the activity, tasting the food. She seemed genuinely interested in my journey, the difficulties I had faced, the joys I had found in my work. The photos for the article were taken with care, capturing the essence of The Corner. The article came out the following weekend. The title was "The Flavor of Overcoming in the Heart of the City," the story of Teresa, warrior mother and owner of The Corner. Anna's words were touching, describing the restaurant not just as a place to eat, but as a meeting point, a welcoming haven. She highlighted my dedication, the quality of the food, and the care with which I treated my customers. That Sunday, The Corner was packed. People who had never been before showed up, curious to meet the Teresa from the article. I received hugs, congratulations, words of admiration. I felt recognized, valued. For the first time in a long time, the pain of Mia's rejection seemed to lessen a bit, overshadowed by the light of recognition from so many other people. That night, Mia came home later than usual. She had her cell phone in her hand and a strange expression on her face. She looked at me, hesitated for a moment, and finally said, "Mom, I read the article." My heart leaped. What would she say? Criticism? More shame? Or perhaps something had changed? Mia's tone when mentioning the article was neutral, indecipherable. My heart pounded in my chest, waiting for her words as if awaiting a verdict. She approached the kitchen table, where I was finishing organizing some bills, and placed her cell phone on the wood. The screen still displayed the article about The Corner. I didn't know you had gone through so much to build all of this," she said, her voice a little lower than usual. There was a hint of surprise, maybe even admiration, in her eyes as she reread some excerpts from the article. I looked at her, trying to decipher her feelings. There was no hostility, but there was also no warm embrace or apology. It was as if she were seeing a side of me that had been unknown to her until then. "It's my story, Mia," I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. "The story of many women who struggle to raise their children with dignity. There is no shame in that." She was silent for a moment, looking at the photo of me next to the pot of pasta, with a smile on my face. "My friends, some of them saw the article," she murmured, looking away again. They commented. They said it looked like a nice place with an inspiring story." That small sentence was like a ray of sunshine breaking through the dark clouds that hung over us. For the first time, Mia mentioned the restaurant to her friends, and the reaction wasn't one of disdain, but of interest. Despite the small changes on her part, I was also feeling a change within myself. I had always known my work had value, and Mia's shame had left me deeply desolate. But now I no longer cared what she thought. The graduation was approaching, and the subject was still delicate. Part of me still dreamed of being there, witnessing my daughter's achievement. The other part, deeply hurt, wanted distance. In the week of the graduation, while I was folding some clothes in my room, Mia appeared at the door. She looked nervous, biting her lower lip. "Mom," she began, her voice hesitant. I've been thinking a lot about what I said to you, about the graduation." My heart raced. I waited in silence, holding my breath. She took a deep breath and continued, "My friends, some of them want to visit the corner. They got curious after the article, and I told them about you, about how hard you worked to give me this opportunity." Her words were like a balm to my wounded soul. There was a different tone in her voice, a tone of recognition, perhaps even pride. And I wanted to ask you something." She continued, still unable to look me directly in the eyes. Would you still like to go to my graduation?" The tears came without me being able to control them. But my answer surprised her. "Daughter, I appreciate the invitation, but I'm not going. I can't go to the graduation of someone who is ashamed of their own mother. Someone who needed other people to intervene for her, to change her opinion about the work of the person who loves her most in the world, and who has always done everything possible to give her the best." "But Mom," she retorted, "this is my final decision, Mia." There, I had put an end to that part of the story. My daughter had changed her opinion about my work, but I had also changed my opinion about her. If once I suffered from my daughter's rejection, now she would know the pain of not having the person who loves her most in the world celebrating her achievement at her graduation. The days leading up to the graduation were difficult. Mia and I didn't talk much. I felt the atmosphere of resentment in the air, but I needed to focus on my work and on those who valued it. On graduation day, the air was charged with expectation and emotion. Mia receiving her diploma would be the realization of a dream, the culmination of years of effort and dedication. But the memory of her shame still hung in the air, a subtle shadow that I needed to dispel. Mia decided to get ready at a friend's house. I didn't see my daughter in person before the graduation, but she made a point of sending me a photo of herself with a message. "Mom, I hope it's not too late to apologize. I love you and I will honor all your effort." That message moved me deeply. I cried when I read it. Donna Maria was at the restaurant and saw me in that moment. She hugged me and said, "Everything will be all right." It was then, at the end of that afternoon, that I received a notification on my cell phone. It was a video on social media of Mia. She had been chosen to give the class speech and chose to honor me. "All of us here have strived and studied hard to complete our course, and I am only here thanks to my mother. A hardworking, dedicated, humble, kind woman with a huge heart." I hurt her deeply, but I wanted to ask her forgiveness. If I got this far, it's because she spared no effort to help me. She is my great example in life. And I invite everyone here to visit Donna Teresa at Teresa's Corner. Mia's speech caught me completely off guard. I cried a lot while watching it, but I didn't expect more surprises awaited me that day. A short time later, Mia arrived at the restaurant with her law school class. She brought everyone to celebrate her graduation there, at Teresa's Corner. To my surprise, I received a standing ovation. Mia's classmates approached me curious, wanting to know more about the corner. Mia, by my side, looked at me with a sparkle in her eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. At that moment, I realized that there was no need to choose between two worlds. My humble world and Mia's academic world could meet, could complement each other. That night had broken down the barriers of shame and prejudice. At the end of the day, Mia hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Mom, forgive me. I was so foolish. I am so proud of you, of your work, of everything you have done for me." That hug sealed our reconciliation. There was no revenge, only the overcoming of pain and the rediscovery of the unconditional love between mother and daughter. Mia learned to value her roots, to recognize the strength and dignity of my life. And I learned that true love is capable of overcoming any barrier, any prejudice. Teresa's Corner continued to thrive, now with some curious new customers who learned its story at the graduation of a young lawyer proud of her mother. And I, Teresa, the humble restaurant owner, discovered that the greatest victory was not the recognition of others, but the love and respect of my daughter, accepting and embracing the strong and hardworking woman I had always been. The taste of that victory was the sweetest of all. What did you think of Teresa's story? Would you have gone to Mia's graduation? Share your opinion in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, like and share this video to reach more people, and subscribe to the channel for more stories of overcoming adversity.